Hello guys, welcome to another episode of Ripster Daily Trade Recaps and Teachings. All right guys, back to normal work routine after vacation last week, and we started the earnings seasons today, and there was not many earnings today, but tomorrow and day after and all the rest of the week is going to be crazy. But anyways, start of the week was okay, was choppy in the morning, had a couple of losers, and nothing crazy, but semiconductors bounce kind of helped. NVIDIA bounce kind of worked. There were a couple of shorts, so it was okay day, nothing crazy, just happy that we executed good and we were not really red. So but let's recap. So there's the good thing, there are a few things to recap here. The SPY kind of midday squeeze is going to be important to discuss today, so I'm going to discuss that, and I will show you how the system and how the price alerts helped us do that. And then we'll discuss few other plays, semiconductors, and discuss the market overview and what happened with the market today and what we can expect for tomorrow and day after. So anyways, before I start, just a quick introduction for anybody who is new to my YouTube and new to my community, new to my Twitter. And these are recaps and trades from trades I take or trades I do not take, but the trades that are part of our community. Any ideas that the traders on our trading floor are trading, or anybody who's trading, and we try to see how we make money, how we lost money, and what was the system, or what was the setup, basically what setup we played, how did we execute the setup, and we try to learn from that. We do not trade random. We have a fixed repeatable system on every setup, and that's what I teach. You can find those setups in all my recaps. And so every morning before the market open, me and my team, they're up early. We go through all the new sources. We create a game plan. You can see the game plan for today. There was Meta, CRM, Snap, Coin, Verizon, Tesla, Spot, AXP, among others. Then we also create what we call as a daily levels. These were the daily levels for today. We have SPY, QQQ, IWM, WIX, and all those daily levels. So what we create is those SPY levels. We can use those to trade them. For example, today's SPY levels on SPY, on the resistance levels were pretty on spot, 498, 500. We will discuss those as well and see how that panned out. And then we also have what I call as a day 2, day 3 setups. This is the strategy that I invented for setups that had news day before yesterday or yesterday, and we call them as our day 2, day 3 setups. And there was a bunch of names there. We'll talk about them: Netflix, American Express, and JP Morgan. Not all of them would trigger, but some of them will show a setup, and then we take those long or short based upon our day 2, day 3 rules. All right, enough for the introduction. Let's start. So the first one we're going to discuss today is SPY and QQQ. So what was the SPY and QQQ? So the SPY move, we discussed this on Friday, what SPY was doing. So this morning, so SPY it was gapping up. Basically, it was gapping up, and we were not sure that it's gonna keep moving from the gap higher. So let's see what were our levels. So you can see this is the gap up right here, and you can see this is a gap up on QQQ as well. SPY was weak right out of the gate. I was telling everyone that SPY is weak right out of the gate. I'm on voice first few hours when the market opens. So doing the market commentary, saying what we are seeing, so how we can trade. So as you see here, SPY was weak, right? What was our level? What was the level? SPY level was 498.40. The resistance was 500. 498.40, 500. So those were our two levels on SPY. And let's see what were levels on QQQ. 417.95. So basically our level was 418. So 418 was our level, and there was this small level from yesterday as well, right here, was like a 1 hour level there. So we wanted to see that breakout for us to think that we're going to go long today. That's why I was very cautious this morning with any of the longs, because unless and until we get out of these pivots, we are not going to push. So SPY was heavy out of the start of the day. I told everyone that we're bearish, no long there, still heaviness, and in that those morning heaviness resulted in a nice fade under the clouds. You can see here we broke 3450 right here, and we filled the gap, and that was the morning short for us. So that was a morning short for us on QQQ. And you see here I'm saying bearish in the gap, cautious on the long, shorts in the gap that are working. You can see that how we traded that short here. So everybody was short in the morning, there was no long. So it was a clearly setup. The setup was rejection of pivots, failure of 3450 in the gap. The target is the end, the full gap fill, right? So we were short in here. You see I was telling everyone that there's no long, we are bearish in the gap. You can see my time-stamped comments, and you can see that 1022, that's where we were, shorts into the gap fill. And I told everyone we should be locking the profits in the gap fill short. So you see there's a gap from here till here, and we are not breaking the highs. It's very easy to see, and we don't need to long until it's very convincingly breaking out there, right? SPY was already weak. QQQ tried and then rejected. That's how we lost in some of our longs, like AMD long. That's how we lost it, and that's why when NVIDIA was a winning trade, but then it pulled back. So always look at what market is doing. Don't just trade blindly. You just need to see what market is really doing for us to trade safely and proactively, making sure we are not going into a bad setup. Right, so QQQ was in the gap, and then later in the day, let's talk about that. So at that point of time, we were kind of a choppiness, right? We were bouncing. We didn't know what was going to be. None of the stocks were moving really. Apple, Microsoft, all were showing weakness. But what we did was, we set some price alerts for this is where our VIX strategy came handy. So our VIX strategy came in. In the morning, I told everyone, even I tweeted about it, that VIX 18 is a key today. You can go check my tweets. I've been teaching you my VIX strategy for long time on my previous videos. There are many videos about VIX. You can go to my free website and learn about those, my trade recaps on VIX strategy. You will learn it. So anyways, most of my community traders know this concept, know these teachings. So I was a little away at that job, but you see we filled the gap, so there was a chance of reversal, and this is where reversal is happening. 512. So you see this candle pushing. This is where you see this retest. This is where you long with your stops right here. This is where you long, and this red candle is where you long, and then when it pushes out 3450, you can add more, and then you see VIX is dropping down at the same time, right? 1150. So you can see that VIX is breaking the pivots. It's breaking these two pivots. So you long confidently. So you long that curl. So you see that 18 SPY QQQ curled. That's what I told everyone that it's going to be the curl setups. Same for SPY. There should be a price alert here. Let me show you guys. So so you see that there was a price alert going in, that 3450 break right here. So that price alert was good, and from that price alert it went on to the 500. Then there was another alert at 500 psychological range break. Remember the levels that I gave in the morning. Look at these levels, SPY, QQQ, all those two levels. And you look here, right? QQQ 418 for 498, 500, and that's your long. You add long breakouts here. Your stops can be 512 EMA clouds, and it's nothing too high. So that was the curl. And look, VIX is not stopping. VIX keeps fading. So that's how a lot of our midday longs kind of worked, like NVIDIA and all, because market recovered. So this was the recovery. We were expecting, a lot of traders were expecting the push at the open, so they left, and then market gave a midday curl, but we stay on the top of it. You see all the price alerts going in the community, so we can trade those midday SPY curl, stress free. Do we know that it is going to push here? No, we don't. But when this range breaks, right? You see this price alert, then we know that we're going to push higher, because it's a 500 psychological range breakout. This is the range breakout from QQQ, from the SPY levels that I gave. So that's why you trade that long. So that was our midday long trade in the community. You see that how we pushed higher, and then there was this midday 512 short that we played in the community. I can show you there on there should be a 512 break alert. Similarly, there was this 512 break, right? You see at 3:20 there was the alert of 512 break happening, and then I was guiding as well. We were talking in the trading floor on the SPY 512 breaks, right? So we were talking about that, and then we shorted this. It's a midday setup. I cover in my webinars. So this was another repeatable setup. It's not an A+ setup, but it's a B- setup. So I think I had some puts that went 100%. A lot of those puts went 100, 200%. Lot of puts, right, on that fade. The calm trader was trading that, some other traders were trading that. So the point of this is to trade on your own. We're not alert service, but the guidance in the community is always on the top, and you can easily trade. Once you understand the system, you can easily trade it. You could short. So there were 3 trades today, right? This short and this long. I personally missed this good entry here, but then this short, right? So there were 3 trades that you could trade with proper risk reward. The concepts you could have used were of course, there's a gap fill concept, pre-market high lows concept, VIX concept. So these 3-4 concepts you could have used to trade SPY QQQ successfully today, right? There was definitely a chop in between here and right here. But when this curl happened, that's when we are going up, because this curl, when you draw a trend line, you can see a trend. So always draw a trend line. So a trend line will tell you if it's a chop or what. And once our Ripster levels turned from chop to bullish, we just kept going, right? We did go bearish for a moment, but again, SPY also filled that gap. QQQ filled the gap and a little more, and there was a support at pre-market. So a lot of lessons today on this SPY QQQ trade. So hopefully everybody nailed it. But really want to teach you, tell you about how we could trade it today and what was the setup. And it's always a different personality. Today it was in the midday. Let's go to the next one. All right, guys. The next one we're going to talk about is CRM. So what was the CRM? Let's go to our game plan. See what was the plan on CRM. Plan on the CRM was they were no longer buying Informatica. That's why they were gapping up. That's okay. That's not like a game-changing news, right? So I said only long if clouds hold, gap fill under 277 area. So this was the plan, right? Resistance was 283 and 277 was the pivot area. I don't know why I said 278 there. So you could see that. So the resistance here at 277, 283 could never break out, right? So right away it was weak. So when something is breaking the 3512 EMA clouds right away, you can either short right away on using the high of the day and scalping to 3450. That's a B- short. And once the gap breaks, then it's a complete gap fill, right? This is one of the trades we have often done. Mostly we do it on earning plays, but still CRM was a good one, right? Even if you shorted this, your stops are at 277, the level I gave you, even then that was a nice setup, right? So I said, look at my comments, B- short, right? And if the cloud breaks, more short in the gap fill there. And I already gave the levels to you guys, right? To the community. So we already know what we are doing. So we already know that's the idea. And then gap fill slow and steady. 273 is the first target I gave everyone. And then that 273 target met. And then the next target I gave everyone was 270. That was on the voice. And I said, leave the runners for full gap fill. Leave the runners for full gap fill. And that's what? We filled the full gap. Where do we close? 270.42. We filled the full gap. So look at this trade, right? Even if you shorted here, you still got like $6 per share short, risking like what? $1. So that was 1:5 reward trade there, right? And if you did a B- short, then you just had to be patient. You had to cover first and watch this bounces and add back and let it work out. So remember, it's a 10-minute chart. So we are trading the 10-minute chart. So we don't care what's happening in 2-3 minutes, right? And our risk analysis, our sizing is based upon this range. And this was a beautiful Gap fill short today. Great opportunity all day on CRM. Let's look at a losing trade this morning. The good thing about us is we don't really hold our losers too long. We cut them right away, right? So AMD we were long. The reason I longed AMD was I was seeing the strength, although I was cautious, right? I knew QQQ is not breaking out, but QQQ faked me out. It's right to break out here, and of course there was another level right here, so that didn't break, but still, right? I mean, SPY was weak. So I felt that QQQ breaking out and we might get that long trade. So, long AMD, and then I gave the target on 150. It was working initially. So it's not that it was not working, right? So it was kind of working initially and then it rejected. And our stops were 147.50, right? So, and I told everyone to stop out. So we stopped out there. There was like $1.50 loss per share on those AMD shorts. That's fine. We had to stop out, so we took a loss because why? Our system is if I didn't cut here, then it would have come to 145, and then I would have to respect this stop. And then why would I do that? Because I need to make sure my losers are small. Do not look back. And we stopped out. I said on the voice, we stopped out. 147.50 stops hit, we stopped out. Both were bearish, right? We talk about NVIDIA a bit later. So morning loser AMD, so we were out there. So next one we're going to discuss is NVIDIA. So we were actually long NVIDIA. The reason was there were so many calls coming in NVIDIA at the morning, 800 calls, 820 calls, and that's when I told everyone start a long. And I didn't size too much initially. I only said a starter long because the QQQ was not breaking out, and then it started to push. We started to break out of 784s, and our stops were right here under 775, 773. And once it broke 790 area, I added more because my target was 800. So I added a little more, and we were going fine. And you saw what QQQ did, right? And then we hit 796, right? So we started the trades early at 780s, and we hit almost $15 per share trade. You can see my comments here at 733, 746, and I said we log in towards 800 and 10 a.m. We logged some, so we logged some profit, but then it started to pull back. And then when it broke that, start this, you don't want to see this much pullback. That's not what I want to see. Then I quickly bailed, right? So I want to get out break even entry on the rest of it, right? Took some profit, didn't took enough, but I wanted to get out. And guess what? We got out NVIDIA at that point, and after that it flushed, right? So how much money did we save stopping out in the right time? So that's important, to stop out and then come back, and size has to be small so that you don't get emotional on chasing up highs and getting out. That's fine. We made out for these losers later in the day, right? So that was the reason we cut the long. You see, there was a long, was a good trade at the open into 10 a.m. We always take our first profits into 10 a.m. That's our golden rule, and that's where you see the 10 a.m. rejections came. But you respect that rule to take the profits, and then you move on, and then you come back later in the day. Anyway, so that was the NVIDIA, was a winning trade in the morning. Not like a crazy win because it came back and we had to cut rest of it, but it was a decent trade there. Now let's see, there was a curl setup on NVIDIA. So I told everyone, if market bounces, focus on NVIDIA. Focus on NVIDIA. If market turns bullish, stop should be 777. And you see that I was away, so I missed that curl. That was a perfect curl. Usually I have a price alerts for community. So this was the perfect curl setup. And that was a perfect curl, and you long here on this pullback on 34.50. The target was 800, 800 target. The call flow has been coming since morning, and this time we did meet our 800 target, adding from 783s all the way to 800s, was still $16 trade again. So you see that we are not looking for the dips. We are looking for that high probability entry on the cloud reversals and we got that. You can pause the screen and see my comments. You can't see when I talk on the voice, but you can definitely pause the screen and see my comments about how this trade would have worked out. And I'm holding some over because it was still over my entry and it closed decent, so I'm swinging some shares and I will see how it works out. And I do want to show you that we have the levels all day for these. So you see that NVIDIA has a 785 breakout level, AMD had our 149 level. So we were trading our levels, and if you see that the support on NVIDIA 765, 756, so these were our supports. This 765 kind of worked out. Look here, right? Support NVIDIA 765. Where did it bounce? Right around 765. In case you want to risk manage or you want to do a C- bounce setup. So that's how these support work. I'm going to do a webinar on support resistance. I will explain all that in detail. But the point is that we give these levels, you watch them, trade with these levels, they will help you out. So next one we're going to look at is Netflix. So Netflix was on our watch for day 2 short. So let's see how it worked out. So Netflix, our resistance was 555, support was for 545 and 550. So I told everyone that you short the reject. You short the rejection. It's not going to look good on 10-minute chart. So let me go to 3-minute. So the rejection was of the clouds. And that was the short. You short the pops. You don't chase the bottoms. You short the pops. So that was the short closest to this cloud area, 554. You could risk 555s. So that was the short here. And then you let it work. I said short is okay. 545 breaks. We'll get 540 target. We could not break 545 convincingly, right? We did go to 542, but that was not convincing. So then as soon as it curled over 548, we stopped out. Remember, we were shorting in 552s, over 550s, and we were stopping out in 548s. So, if we are shorting here, then we're definitely losing here. So we have short has to be here on the bounces. And, so I closed the short. So see, when we closed the short, even after that, it went from 548s all the way to 556 and then 558. So that's the reason you respect the system. I don't look back. The candle is moving over clouds. I'm out, right? And I said, close the short, and we can reshort again, but close it for now. So this is important lesson. I showed you 3 examples here: Netflix, NVIDIA, AMD, how to respect your stops and just do not hold if the system says do not hold. I mean, it's a one bounce on Netflix. We'll watch tomorrow. If it continues to hold, then we can long it, but it's no guarantee. It can still fade back. So let's look at Meta. Meta was another one which was long loser, but the short kind of worked out. So I told everybody to long the 486 pullbacks. We long the 486 pullbacks, but as soon as it broke, remember, when market is breaking down, you get out of the longs. I told everybody cautious on the long, right? So I told everybody cautious on the longs. Look here, cautious on the longs. So that's when you exit Meta, take a loss, move on, and then you short Meta. And because 3450, it's going in the gap fill. Meta is going in the gap fill. Under that 483 support is going in the gap fill. You see that? So that's the trade, and that's what I told everybody on the voice, and that was the same trade on Snap on the gap fill. So look at Snap. So that was another one that was gap filling. So both were the gap fill trades. I told that at 10:09, and then even after that we faded decent. So you look at Meta, at 10:09, even after that we faded over $10. So you get out of the longs and move to the shorts, right? So that's how you say, how you change your buys always. And that was Snap and Meta. So let's look at Tesla next. So let's look at Tesla. So Tesla, guys, again, let's go back to our levels. What are our levels? So our levels on Tesla were 140 was the support. So it was all important support. So I told everybody trade if 140 holds, then we can bounce it. Let's go back to our plan and see what we said here. So our plan was check the daily levels, check the chart ideas. I posted the chart. Watch out for B minus bounce. The reason I was saying was that we've been selling on bad news. And what will happen is we try to short it and then they trap us and move us, push us. And exactly that's what happened. You see this hammer candle, right? So we are not long here. We do not want a long under 140. So we do not want a long under 140. We don't really want a long under 140. We want a long when we see buyers, right? If I go back, I show you. So I said no long, bearish, yeah, short scalp. If you are fast, you short scalp it, you know. And then we saw next what happened, amateur move the first 10 minutes and swipe back over the clouds. That's when I said bullish, risk 140, B minus long. Any pullbacks, you know, we can push higher. 3450 has to turn bullish. And from that time, when I said that at 942, we pushed from 140, 130, $1.20, like $1.20, 30 risk. We pushed to 144s, right? So we pushed almost $2.5, $3. And that was okay trade as well. It was just like NVIDIA. But then again, as soon as it pulled back, that's where you cut. So we are still cutting it over our entry. And then we just, you know, don't look back because, you know, Tesla was, because you just have to save, you know, your profit with the market. And even after that, Tesla did curl over 512, but it was not convincing. It was weaker than the market, right? But important thing to learn today on this lesson is, guys, this trap on amateur move. So that's very important to learn how they trap, because everybody's thinking short. Everybody shorts at the open and they trap everyone and everybody is covering and running. Although when everybody was covered, it sold off, but this is your opportunity to long scalp it, right? And you know, so that, and then later it curled over this again it gave a 512 curl. You know, I told everybody use the 140 risk, and then it again curled from that level. It again pushed to 142, 143. Even from that midday curl setup, you can see there it curled and pushed. So morning longs, take a loser, long scalp here, and it pushes higher again. So, you know, it was a decent day to scalp it, you know, all day. So next one was the idea on a coin and MSTR today in the community. If I show you that. So today was, you know, Bitcoin had a strength. So I was bullish to neutral. The resistance was 220 on coin, MSTR 1230, and coin broke out the resistance right away. You know, I was too focused on other trades, NVIDIA, but this was a good long in the morning, although it failed as well. You know, same concept. You know, if it was a long from the pre-market open, and you can see there, it pushed higher into the 227s. Our target was 228. Then it's pulling back. You stop out, and you just stop out, and then you can trade this long later in the day. Because I told everybody it should flush to 3450. Actually, traders shorted it because I told everyone that we are going to flush to 3450. I told them that when it was breaking here, right here, 221s, and it gave a nice short scalps to the traders because there's a 512 break, that our repeatable system. And after that, coin reclaimed just with the market. When market was reversing, you could trade that long as well, 3450. You know, same story was for MSTR. MSTR was bullish initially, and then you cut, maybe you get back long. So, you know, and swinging some of these because, you know, if Bitcoin comes back, there's a lot of room for recovery, especially on MSTR. Let's look at Verizon from our game plan today. Let's see what was our game plan on Verizon. Verizon had a news support was 4110, 4080, resistance pivot was 42, 4160, bullish to neutral versus the clouds, but it broke the clouds right away. And that, my friends, becomes your bearish setup. Remember the pivot? The pivot I gave? And it's still heavy. All day I was talking that's heavy. And when the market tag, it's even more heavy, right? From that short, Even if you short it here 40.80s, it faded all the way to 38.72. It was a good short, especially for the small accounts. Look at this bearish candle that Verizon made today. That was like crazy, you know. And we can fade more. The way this bearish candle is, it's really huge, right? So we can fade more. We don't even need to look at the earnings, because when this thing happens, it traps so many longs. It traps so many longs in the pre-market. They are bailing when the clouds break. And then what is this? Yesterday's close price or yesterday's support price. That's it. Look at the levels I gave. That's it. Support, right? I wish I saw it right at the open, but it was still a good short later in the day. So next one we're going to look at here is American Express. And you guys know we were swinging American Express because of this big chart. Usually I like to see them hold, I usually like to see them hold right here on the clouds or hold certain levels. This one, kind of faked out, pulled back, but then it came back again. And that's when I told people on trading floor that AXP is good, right? So that it's going to push. So we talked about that AXP. Let's see where we were talking about that, right? Good long now. So you see that I was saying good long now because it's reclaimed the bullish pivot. And I told everybody hold the swing and we get more. And you see that it's A plus setup. It's fine if you stopped out here, but you get back in. And a lot of traders, Punjabi Pablo nailed it all day. Beautiful trade by Punjabi Pablo today on the XP. So let's look at the one from the game plan that I completely missed, but a lot of traders in community were trading. So RIOT, trade versus 10. Simple trade, psychological level 10. That's all you need there. Breakout over 10, long it, pulled back, held 10, hold it, add more, trade RIOT all day. This was a beautiful trade, and we watch it tomorrow as well over the clouds, right? Because RIOT, when JP Morgan upgrades something, you better note, right? Because when we talk about it before as well, when the tier 1 upgrades, you better make a note of that. So RIOT was a good one in the community, trade versus 10, beautiful execution by a lot of traders there. So last few ones we're going to look at is our day 2 setups, JPM, LULU. I love LULU. I have it LULU every day on my day 2 list. So this was LULU today. This was LULU, and you can see that LULU was on a day 2 level, 354, 352. We also had, I think there was some news as well on LULU. But anyways, the point is, was a day 2 long over that pivot, and same was JPM. So that's why I have this strategy, which I would probably cover in one of my detailed webinars. That's why I have these plays like JPM over the pivots as well, because they had earnings few days back. Same for Bank of America. Look at the Bank of America from the day 2, fill the gap and look at it go, right? So look at my levels, 37.30, 37.30. Those were the levels. So anyways, guys, so we see the system working, the setups working. You choose what you like, you trade what you like, and it was a decent trade if in the midday, not a day to go crazy sizing, but still it was okay. We're ready for a big week, going to be a lot of opportunities, so many earning players. This is the best. These are the times when we make most of our money and consistent trades. But look at this Bank of America move, love it. But anyways, guys, thank you, appreciate it. And if you want to trade with me, just join our community, come for the guidance, do not come for the alerts. You can see my guidance similar to here, and a lot of guidance on the voice. We help you get better traders and lose less and not lose. Winners big, losers small. That's our motto in Tenet. We stay with the trend. Thank you. Tata. Bye bye.